Hello, hello, it's Kevin here. Time for a video. Now, as you may or may not know, we've been are currently running down all the previous papers from Cambridge for the IELTS test. Academic Writing Task 1, the report, map, process, chart table, etc. So we started with 17. We've done all four. How it works, I write a sample. I take 5 student responses to the task, which I post in my Telegram group, IELTS Time Pro. Link below on Telegram if you're watching on YouTube or anywhere else. So we've got the group. I post a task. We've done 17, 16, 15, 14, and currently on number 13, this should be test number 2. So I post a task and I invite responses. People from the Telegram group write their answers. I compare my sample with theirs, correct their writings, etc. That's pretty much it. First things first, disclaimer, fair use, teaching, non-profit, etc., etc. And this should be mine. This one here's mine, yeah. And the other one is theirs, yours, theirs, right. I suppose I better show you the picture that we're doing. Let me open this. Okay. Yeah, so you can see this here. So now this is an interesting one. So I say this is Cambridge 13 task test number 2, right? Writing task 1. So percentage of households in owned and rented accommodation, England and Wales between 1918 and 2011. You know how it works. So key trends and features. Well, obviously what we can see, this is quite interesting, is housing rented accommodation shows a clearly downward trend, while ownership of houses shows an opposite rising trend, and that's it. Pretty much it. So in your introduction you include what's on the x-axis, what's on the y-axis, owned and rented, England and Wales, put the time period, then the overview, obviously the key trends. Maybe there's a correlation, we can't really say because that's not the remit of what we're doing here. So all we can say, we can clearly see that's gone down, that has gone up, and that's it. One's gone up, one's gone down. So this one's pretty straightforward. So you can do comparisons, or you can do, as I've done, as I'll show you, ownership and renting. So the one that's gone up at ownership, I put that first. One that's gone down, renting, I put that last. Okay, so let's have a peep. The bar chart illustrates how many households in percentage terms, owned or rented. So the introductory sentence it's pretty easy. Just don't simply copy it out though, because they'll erase that if you do. You've got to paraphrase it, but you don't need to be spending a lot of time on the introduction. Just what's it show, what's on this axis, what's on that axis. Okay. More important is the overview. From an overall view, it can be seen that went down approximately half. Conversely, houses owned, a significant rise and tripled. Because if you look at the figures, you can see what it's like. So that's gone down from just below 80,000 to just below 40,000. So it's kind of halved. Conversely, 20,000 up to just under 70. So it's tripled, essentially, yeah? 20, 40, 60. So that's the key trends or features. That's pretty straightforward there. So I'll talk about ownership here. 1918, 20%. What's interesting is more or less roughly every 10 years, roughly 10% every 10 years. The same trend more or less, I say interestingly, 1939 and 53, both years the same, steady decline of around 10%. So that is pretty straightforward, really. It's 200 words, is it? 203 words. That's because there's a bit of data, 80% years, percentage points, etc. So 200 words, that would do fine. So you could do it in that way. So I just said, okay, that's gone up, that's gone down, and that'll do the job. Okay, let's have a peep at yours now. So we've only got 4. I usually take the first 5 and then I stop, but for some reason people haven't been writing recently. The previous one for Cambridge 13 Test 1, we only got, I think, maybe 3 responses or 3 respondents. I don't know why. I'm going to look at some essays in a bit after this, because I did post an essay task and I wrote a sample and I've got some essays to compare. I'm not sure how I'll do that because I'm not going to go through 5 or 6 different essays. That would take an hour, and that's too much time. I might take one at a time. I might just take one. We'll see. But anyway, back to this one for the time being. So, a bar graph chart illustrates owned rented houses. Well, it's not necessarily families living there. You could put it in that way. 93 years. Okay, so that was good. Owning and renting had the opposite trends. Well, simply opposite. Oops. Put the changes on while I remember. Okay. Had opposite trends. What's this doing that for? Oh. Yeah. Had opposite trends. The proportion of households owning accommodation increased, into houses decreased. Ownership had overtaken renting by a wide margin. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. 1918 compared to percentage of households in the country, comes over higher, 35%. So what this one here is doing essentially is comparing. So in 1918, rented, owned. In this year, rented, owned. You could do it in that way. If you're not careful, it can be a bit confusing though. If you're comparing year by year, owning and renting, to keep it simpler, I simply went, owning, renting, and I only made 1 or 2 points of comparison, not comparing every single thing. This is 221 words, so that could be why. It's a little bit longer. The accommodation about 20%, must be higher, 7%. Steady rent, declining rentals, 60%. So ownership rose 50%. Households in 1917, the households. I thought it was 1918. The households in their own homes took the lead, despite increasing and hitting the peak. Okay, right. So this is a little bit confusing, right? You can see why I just did owning paragraph 3, renting paragraph number 4. 1 increased, so that's what I did first. 1 decreased, that's what I did the second, and I only made 2 comparison points, because if you're doing this up and down, it's back and forth. So ownership 50% level with rentals took the lead despite hitting the peak at 70%. It's sort of slight fall. It's a bit confusing. You would need the actual graph to look at to understand this, right? Now, what some teachers and what IELTS themselves say is that you should be able to write this in such a way that the reader could reconstruct what you've described purely by your explanation. So if I didn't have that picture, I should be able to read this and I should be able to reconstruct it. But how this one's written here, it's a bit confusing. 50% level with rentals in 1971. So after 1971, the households took the lead. Took the lead. It's not like a race. So how can it take a lead despite increasing the peak? So despite peaking, it sort of fall. It took the lead. Anyway, so if you're confusing the reader, that's not usually a good idea. What's this next one then? Come on, scroll down. Okay. Graph was a percentage of people that houses owners who bought them. Okay, all right. Ownership for graph, percentage of renting accommodation. That's 2 M's accommodation. Initially the highest, it was overtaken by owning houses. Right, now you've got to identify your key trends and features. I shouldn't have to show you this again, though I will do. I've got it somewhere about the criteria. This is task 1. Get my pen out. Okay. So you need to do key features clearly presented, well highlighted, key trends. Where are we? Overview, appropriately selected, key features highlighted. Yeah. Main trends or differences are identified. Well, you can see that. Yeah. Main trends or differences are identified. Yeah. So what's the biggest? What's the smallest? What's gone up? What's gone down? Etc. Okay. So where are we? The highest bid was overtaken by owning houses toward the end of the period. Those houses dramatic increase. Well, right. So the main thing here is that one's gone up, one's gone down. Essentially, that's all that you need to actually say. When the commission initially the highest overtaken by owning houses towards the end of the period. Okay. So now, what's this individuals? People, individuals. That's not the same. The share of people renting houses was much more than individuals who owned accommodation. Individuals, how do you know it's an individual? With about 78%, it decreased remarkably, just 50% to add one, it was 10 years. So 50% of the increase in the last 10. So there's a lot of data missing here. So you got 1918, then it goes from 1918 to 2001. There was a moderate increase in the last 10 years. So that doesn't really work. If you see, right, so now if you look at mine, right, so I say 1918, 20% increased from 30%, then roughly 10% every 10 years. So you could reconstruct that. You could actually draw that based on that. 20%, 30%, and then roughly 10% every 10 years until it peaked around 1991, and then, however, a slight fall. Okay, which is not quite what this one says. So there's a bit of data missing, I think, from that paragraph. Buying houses, on the other hand, are a very small portion or proportion, because it's percentages. 20% in 1918, through the next 53 years or over, increased significantly. So it's in 1981, it's a remarkable growth. So, right, in the next 30 years, okay, so now you don't have to include every single year, you know, like, where are we? 61, 71, 81, 91, 39, 53. But you do need to give a little bit more information there, a little bit more data. Where are we? Sorry, my the mouse is not working particularly well today. That's it now. That's it. Okay. So 1918, 39. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different periods or different years. Sorry, we've got the period. We've got 9 different years in between. So you don't have to include every single one of those, but still, jumping this quite large kind of gap without including a bit more information, what's the high points, what's the low points, etc. It's not giving the full picture, is it? Really? And mine was only 5 words more, 203 words, but I've got a lot more information in. average of 10% every 10 years, etc. You could do something such as that. Remarkable 70%. So you've got a period of 30 years. It's sort of sudden fall. Well, was it a sudden? Wasn't that kind of sudden, was it? It was just a fall. It's only 5%. So anyway, so that's not bad. But still, I think you could have put some more data in those paragraphs there. Okay, let's have a peep at this next one. A glance at the back. Now, why are we glancing? What's that? That's a glance. Oh, that's a glance. Why are we glancing at the chart? Provide reveals data of household accommodation during 83 years. Where is it? Where is it? It's in England and Wales. Don't forget, put that in. Where is it, right? All the information. X-axis, Y-axis. Use the rubric. It's in England and Wales. The diagram illustrated in... How did it illustrate in stark contrast? A remarkable reduction. Right, so here, this looks like we've got memorized sentences and phrases just used with no real connection to what you actually see. So the diagram illustrated in stark contrast. In stark contrast to what? And why is it remarkable? Reduction. The other one what? Significantly, the other one what? Ownership, which is a resonance fluctuation. What is that? I don't even know. Is that some science term? What does that have to do with anything? Oops. Something wrong with my keyboard. I have to sort that out once I finished this video. Something's not working right. Don't know if it's this bloody mouse or if it's the keyboard. Well, anyway, so that overview doesn't actually work, and it's only and then you've got it's only 148 words in total, which is way shorter than what you need to actually give me. Right, so if you've described it well, what they say is the reader should be able to reconstruct it based on what you've written. Well, here you couldn't. You certainly couldn't. Let me just find that in the first year of period in 1910. Well, it wasn't in 1910, wasn't it? Wasn't it in 1918? The first year of the period in 1918, households were 4 times more than households in owned. Now, I'm not going to rewrite this and correct every preposition, every article, because 1, I can't be asked, and 2, I can't be asked. So I'm not going to do it. But what's this? Was 4 times more. So the first period was 4 times more than household in the condition. Similarly, during 42 years, households in rented. Rented what? Households that were rented took high percentage or had a high percentage than households in owned. Growth of households in owned. Well, right, so I'm not going to make any more comment on that. It's too short. There's some memorized phrases there that don't make sense, and that, a lot of that doesn't make sense either. So don't want to be overly harsh, but that's kind of how it is. So what's the final one here? Let's have a look. The given paragraph represented or represents, because it hasn't changed, accommodation in 2011. Overall, with the accommodation of households trend. How can a trend, right? The rented accommodation of households trend. You mean the trend of households renting accommodation. So this word or overall, the trend of households renting accommodation gradually decreased, where the owned houses trend increased. Well, it wasn't a slow increase at all. Really, was it? It was a steady, pretty. 10% every 10 years. That's a steady incremental increase. I mean, if you look at mine, how I put mine. So, right, rented housing, it declined by approximately half. Yeah, approximately half. Percentage owned, equally significant rise, it tripled. If you look at the picture again, right, so we've got right just under 80% to just under 40, sorry, just under, so say 80-40, it's halved, yeah, 80-40, that is half. If you look at owns, we've got 20-70, so 20, 40, 60, 70. So it's more or less, it's tripled, yeah? That's the key, that's the overall pattern or trend. So, and it's not a slow increase, is it? Or decrease. It's a steady one. It's not very, very slow. It's, it's incremental. It's kind of steady. It's like roughly for both ownership and rentals, it's 10% more or less every 10 years. Every 10 years, 10%. Is that particularly slow? I don't really think so. It's steady, incremental. Okay. 1918, 70% fairness rental accommodation, but the church had to fall until 1953, which our population 71. The trend is drastic. How is 10% a drastic fall? A drastic fall of 10%? In overall terms, that's not particularly drastic, is it? If you're looking at a chart, a drastic fall will be where it goes, that's a drastic fall, that's a steady decline rather than fall. It's not like a fall, it's a decline, a steady decline. Trend went up to 50%, but it was not significant. Secondly, in 1918, well, there's no firstly and secondly. You use that when use those when you're writing an essay and you want to make a couple of points. There's no firstly or secondly here. It's two separate bits of information. What's rate went up to about number of the exactly the same in that year. Okay, that's good. A comparison. So it says dramatically rose. Dramatically, how is 50 to 60% a dramatic rise? It's only 10%, 50 to 60. Is that really a dramatic rise? Gradual fluctuations. Okay. So again, this isn't too bad, but you need to be careful how you put the data down, how you group your information. I say I would have kept it nice and easy, same as I did here. Start from a rise, 20% increased, 30%. Roughly 10%, it peaked. However, there was a slight fall. That's it. That's what, maybe how many words is that? 81. So that's not bad. Yeah, this is probably less. Yeah. So, and I've got almost all of the details in. So, do it in that way. So if you're doing your introduction, make sure you've got where, what time, how's it kind of measured, yeah? Owned, rented, household, percentage, England, Wales, put the time period. Key trends, rented, declined by half. Owned, rise and tripled, okay? But now just do it, keep it simple. Ownership, figures. However, renting, figures. That's it. Just over 200 words. Okay, hope that helps. I say some of these aren't too bad. That 148 words a little bit short. You need to be careful how you group this information, though, how you put the data down. And there's a couple of memorized phrases. That overview doesn't really work. In stark contrast to what? And how's it stark? So some aren't too bad. Some need a little bit of work, like I say. Okay, right, that'll do for now. Hope that helps. I'm going to post the next task. Cambridge 13 test number 3. You can work on that. and I'll probably do an essay video or two also. So, hope that helps. I'll see you soon.